This mini lesson is about representative samples in studies. When you think about representative sample, you can think about it being a group of participants or the sample. So those are the people in the study that represent some larger group or the population to which the experimenter is hoping that the results or outcomes or whatever they're getting will be generalized. And that's going to vary from study to study, um, what population they're trying to generalize to. And even as you consider your own reviews of the research, you might be determining kind of what population you're hoping this would generalize to. As you're thinking about representative samples, the big question that you're really addressing is how much does the sample, or this smaller group of participants, look like the population, or the larger group of people to whom we're trying to generalize? And you can think about two different kind of main areas for that. Think about sample demographics and sample traits. So for demographics, we're talking about things like race and ethnicity, socioeconomic status, age, gender. And you're thinking about how much does the group of people that are in this study look like whatever population you're interested in broadly. And then the second is the traits, and those are kind of other characteristics that the population or the sample may have. And so you might be considering the IQ level, level of hearing impairment, severity. So if you're looking at patients with dementia, what is the kind of severity of their dementia at the time of the study? And so those are just some considerations. There's also other factors that are going to play into this a little bit. And so the location of the study, if you think about, is this in a university town or somewhere else? Is it in large hospitals? And who are the people that go to large hospitals? Are you looking at schools and you're only in these suburban schools? And so that's going to kind of help, that's going to feed into those sample demographics and traits that you're able to get depending on where the study is taking place. There are techniques that you might see written about in the studies that are used to, that researchers use to help improve the representativeness of the sample. The first one I'm going to talk about is random sampling, and that would be taking a random selection from all possible participants in the population. That's really difficult to do, but you probably would most commonly see that discussed in survey research if you're looking at the methodology of survey research. But it can be used in other types of studies as well. So you could think about a situation maybe where an entire school district is implementing an intervention and they randomly select 3 students in each of the classrooms to track their progress more in depth. And so theoretically they would be getting this random sample that would be representative of the district as a whole. The other techniques that you might see are related to recruitment methods, and so how are they reaching out to try to increase the diversity of a sample or make it more reflective of the population to which they're trying to generalize. So if you all are on the UNC, if you haven't opted out of those UNC mails, you get these emails for study participants or for studies. And if their only method of recruitment is to send an email to UNC students, they're not really getting a wide array of samples. But if they also have ads that are on buses or on the radio, or they're sending out letters through churches or schools or some other method, that might be indicative that they're really trying to improve the representativeness of the sample. The recruitment methods aren't probably commonly reported in studies, but they can be sometimes. So just pay attention to that. So as you're reading through the research for your project, here are just a few things you want to consider. Pay attention to the demographic information or other characteristics that are reported or not reported in the studies. If there are key factors like race and ethnicity that aren't reported, that's something that would be a concern. Also be aware of convenience samples. So convenience samples just, it means that there are people who are easy to access. And those can be problematic because they're not always as representative of the population. So if they're testing an intervention and they're just looking at people who are already enrolled in the intervention rather than going out and recruiting them, that would be a convenience sample. Look for descriptions of how research made efforts to select or recruit participants that were more reflective of the larger population. And then when you consider all of these things together, those just may impact the conclusions that can be drawn from a particular study or a set of studies. And so if all of your studies only have adults that are 50 and older, well, that's probably not going to generalize to 35 to 45-year-olds. And so it'll just impact the conclusions that you're able to draw in your lit review or that the studies are able to draw themselves.